All students need to feel included in order to succeed in college, but when a student has a disability, inclusion can be more difficult to achieve. As a result, college students with disabilities are more likely to drop out of college than their peers without disabilities. Specifically, research shows that only 34% of college students with disabilities complete a four-year program. Today on HUSA's Campus Health Wellness Wednesdays, we are going to be talking about and exploring the feelings of students with disabilities, breaking down some of those stigmas, and learning about what we can do to improve the environment for disabilities at the Mecca. My name is Naja Woodards. I am the Campus Health Associate Director for HUSA.
My name is Esohe Omaruyi. I'm the Disabilities Coordinator for HUSA.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendall Addison and I'm a junior biology major from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the caseworker this year for disabilities under HUSA.
And we are also joined by a special guest, Ms. Fonda Bryant.
Hello, I'm Fonda Bryant. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. I'm also a QPR Question, Persuade, Refer suicide prevention certified instructor. Thank y'all guys for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get into it. So at first, we're gonna start the discussion with some testimonies we received from Howard students. These experiences will remain anonymous, not only for the peers' comfort, but these may be feelings or experiences that many of us must be battling ourselves.
Here's the first. I have recently been diagnosed with a disability and has been one of the most difficult adjustments that I've had to face. At the beginning, I felt anxious, overwhelmed, and even hopeless sometimes. These emotions were heightened during COVID. Although online learning has affected me negatively due to the fact that focusing in the same location is strenuous, I do appreciate my professors for understanding my disability as well as asking ways that they can assist me.
All right. Did anyone have any thoughts about that testimony in itself?
I definitely appreciate the fact that there are some professors who are taking the next step to have conversations with their students with disabilities. I know it's a really hard time for everybody, but I really do appreciate the professors who, like I said before, reach out to those who may be struggling internally during this time.
Mm.
Piggybacking off of what Kendall's saying, I agree because I know like firsthand, sometimes you may have professors that may not be as understanding or they may just be like, contact Office of Special Student Services. But for that professor to actually make sure that that student was learning and retaining information and was comfortable in that situation was very eye-opening for me, and I really appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think with the shift that has been going on with discussing mental health, I think that now that professors are also getting in the business of checking in on students and talking to students and also giving them that space to if they have any issues as well, to just be understanding. I really do appreciate that as well.
Okay, so with the second testimonial, living with a disability for most of their life, they came to college with this disability. They said they expected the university to be more accommodating. They emailed back and forth with the Office of Special Student Services during the summer to make sure that their medical accommodation was in place, and it was at that time. They said that upon arriving to campus for moving day, they discovered that their accommodation was no longer in place, that their room was given away to someone else, and they were basically told to just live wherever was open, whether it be a double or a triple. But being somebody with a disability, it's not that easy sometimes to just put yourselves in that position, to live with another person, or let alone sharing your space can be a lot. So to hear that was disheartening because the same thing similar happened to me. And this is even before I became the disabilities coordinator, just being a student with a disability, it's how hard it can be to get accommodation. So seeing that it's not only happening to me, but it may happen to a plethora of people on campus, it was kind of hard to hear. But in the end, they did get their accommodation. So I enjoyed reading that when I followed up with them, that they did end up getting accommodated. But sometimes it's just a process, I guess.
Yeah, That is very disappointing to hear at first that their accommodations were not given, but I am glad that at the end of the day it was happened. And I think that that's the opposite of this coin of, yeah, there are some times when we do get assistance and other people with disabilities do get assistance, and there's times that they're just forgotten or seen as almost invisible with these things. And I think that we can all do a better job, and especially when it comes to any kind of university, to just make sure that those students are being those students' needs are being met.
All the students' needs, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So many educators and universities solely pay attention to the academic side of disabilities. That means that the social participation of students with disabilities get less attention. However, because most extracurricular activities at Howard University are student-led and organized, Campus Health feels it's imperative to introduce an understanding of how our actions, stigmas, and other factors exclude our peers with disabilities.
Disabilities have so many misconceptions surrounding them. People think that disabilities are all the same, but there are so many different factors that come with each one. Everything is not visible to the eye, so it is hard to put them all in one box. Oftentimes, people think about disabilities, they may have their own image in their head, but sometimes you can't see disabilities. Some disabilities are not physical. So the question here is, are all disabilities physical and long-term?
I can speak for as far as mental health goes because of the fact that it is called the silent or the invisible illness. Because the thing is, we might look great on the outside. We might look perfectly healthy, but on the inside, we're struggling. And the thing is, something with depression, for instance, depression is very debilitating. And we might look perfectly healthy, but people don't realize when you have been diagnosed with depression, it's a horrible thing to have to deal with. It's a horrible mental health condition. All of them are. But at the same time, people don't realize, for me, for instance, I look very athletic. And yet it's days that I don't feel like brushing my teeth, combing my hair, or taking a shower because it takes too much energy. And people will say, how can you do that? You look perfectly fine on the outside. But they don't know that it feels like some days, if I go in the gym, and people are saying, hey, Fonda, how are you doing today? And I'll say, I'm fine, but I'm not fine. They don't know that I was out in the car 15 minutes earlier trying to get out of the car to come in the gym because it feels like an elephant is sitting on me. It feels like my arms weigh 150 pounds apiece. And yet, when I finally talk myself into getting out of my car and getting in the gym, you put that smile on like everything's okay, but it's not okay because a lot of times if you open up and let people know you're struggling, they feel like, oh, she's just wanting attention. It's nothing really wrong with her. She looks perfectly fine, and you're not fine. And that's something we have to change because I deal with a lot of student athletes, especially athletes of color. And it's many a day that they have told me, Miss Fonda, I'm dealing with stuff, but they're not going to go to their coaches, especially if their coaches are white. And they're not going to go talk to a white therapist because they feel like that the therapists or the coaches are not going to understand because they don't understand our culture. And they're also going to feel like what we have been taught as people of color. You're weak, you're crazy. It's like they've been taught you're supposed to be big, you're supposed to be strong, nothing can hurt you, you got to be mentally tough. And that's a terrible thing to tell these young men, especially young men of color, because we come from a culture where we've been taught, pray about it, don't claim it, give it to God. It's a sign of weakness. And to show any sign of weakness is considered a failure or someone that can't be trusted. So again, when you're talking about disabilities, people don't really realize that mental health is one because it can be debilitating. Anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, and numerous others, eating disorders, addiction. All of those fall under the mental health umbrella. And it can be debilitating. But the thing is, from physical to mental disabilities, people tend to have empathy and compassion for people with physical disabilities. For people with mental health issues, not so much. Because I never will forget, several years ago, I went to Washington, D.C. to help push the oh gosh, I can't even remember it, but I went to push the Mental Health Care Act. And I never will forget that Patrick Kennedy spoke. And I'm a big fan of the Kennedys, always have been. And he got up on the stage and he said, the two diseases that society has no empathy and compassion for the people that have them are people with mental health issues and addiction. And he's right, because people feel like we're bringing on ourselves. And then if we look perfectly healthy, how dare us sit up and say we're struggling when we look perfectly healthy? So that is a real big difference between physical disabilities and mental disabilities. It's not that much empathy and compassion for us, and that has to change.
And to piggyback off of what Ms. Bryant just said, I definitely agree, because I do have ADD, and a lot of people often ask me, why do I have accommodations? Or you don't look like there's anything wrong with you, but in my mind, there's so much going on at one time. So thank you for speaking on that. And also, I just want everyone to remember, like, just because you don't have a long-term disability does not mean that you do not have a disability. If you do not have 20/20 vision, you have a disability. If you broke your arm or your leg, even if it's short term, that's also a disability while you are impaired. So just be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm. The definition of disability is now broad, and in addition to that, a lot of disabilities are invisible. So a lot of people are very wary of asking these intrusive questions or ones that will violate somebody's dignity. How can you or someone else respectively determine if someone has a disability to say necessary accommodations? So just like how you have ADD, how do you like deal with that kind of like the questions that might come about with that?
Start that conversation off, for one. I know it may be hard, especially if you do not have disabilities, to put yourself in someone's shoes that do have disabilities. But I'll speak for myself. Being someone with disabilities, we like to be seen as normal. A lot of us don't like to be seen as someone who has a disability or someone who's impaired. We like to be seen as our name. I like to be seen as Kendall. So when determining if someone has a disability, I would definitely say that it would be better to just be friends with the person, talk to the person. And if they do want to discuss their disability, or let you know about what they're going through, just be a person of support for that individual, but not necessarily make any judgments for yourself. Let them tell you.
And I will piggyback up on what Kendall said, because part of the training that I do, the QPR suicide prevention training, it's about not being judgmental. It's about listening and talking and not assuming. Because as I said again, you would never know that I had depression unless I told you. One of the things that I love to do is Chief Putney, our outgoing chief, he had me speak. I speak to the rookie officers of CMPD, and I do a lot of speaking to high school students or wherever I speak. One of the first things I always do is I walk in there, I'm dressed up, I have heels on, my makeup's nice, and I ask everybody, how many of y'all would know from looking at me I have depression? You wouldn't know. Then I ask them, how many of y'all would know because of my depression I almost died by suicide 25 years ago? They still wouldn't know. So the next thing I do is I go around the room and I count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have each police officer, each student, or wherever I'm speaking, I have each fifth person to stand up. And when they're all standing, I say, this is how many people in this room that could have a mental health condition. 1 out of 5 adults and 1 out of 5 children have a mental health condition. And most people assume that people with mental health issues, we look like the people on the street. We're disheveled. We're walking around. We're talking to ourselves. And the thing is, if they got help, they could be okay too. So I always tell people, don't be judgmental. And that's part of that training with QPR. You can't be judgmental. Just because someone is a star student, a star athlete, an entertainer, from all walks of life, you cannot assume that just because that person looks well put together on the outside, that they're well put together on the inside. A physical disability, you're going to see that for the most part. You're not going to see what we're dealing with, but that doesn't mean we don't have a disability nonetheless. So I always tell people, don't assume, and just always treat people with empathy, compassion, and kindness, because behind a smile sometimes can be a lot of pain.
Absolutely. Oftentimes, there's a disconnect in communication when discussing disabilities. People may have a hard time trying to identify with someone who has disabilities and ensure that they are not invalidating their experiences. How can students who do not identify with a disability empathize with those who do?
So I think just starting with research, learn about disabilities your loved ones may have, unlearn harmful behavior and sayings. So saying lame, using the R word, or even like comments of like this weather is so bipolar. All of those things are oftentimes um, rooted in ableism and oftentimes do not help people speak up or kind of just often emphasize the stigma. So call out friends and family for using ableist language. Help to hold our university accountable in protecting students with disabilities and making their lives easier. So that means working elevators, accessible buildings, and then other accommodations, whether that be more emphasis on counseling and more emphasis on mental health as well. And check in on them. If your friend is having a bad day or have been more distant, check in and let them know that you're available to speak to them if they ever want to reach out, or give them resources to help them as well. These are some ways that many people can help destigmatize disabilities and accommodate people with disabilities as well.
That's a great point. And I will say also, I use that same kind of training when I do the QPR training, is the fact that I always tell people always ask me, what is the best way to help someone with a mental health condition, my loved one, my family member, my friend? I said, get educated. Get educated and realize that we're not making this up. We're not just wanting attention. It is a real physical condition. So I always tell people to read up on a mental health condition so you can help us and not enable us. And also, words are very important. Words can hurt and words can heal. And I have a friend of mine right now that's dealing with a daughter who either has schizophrenia or bipolar. And I didn't want to, at that particular time, to tell her, don't use words like crazy, nuts, cray cray, retarded, any of those words, because you never know. Just like the police officers, or when I speak, you don't know I have a mental health condition. You have no idea who is standing around you, who is dealing with a mental health condition, on the verge of going to get help, already getting help, and you're spewing out, oh girl, they're just so crazy, they're cray cray, they're retarded, they're psycho. Guess what? Those words hurt, and it can keep people from getting help. Or saying, hey, I'm not going to ever bring this up. And then when they go into crisis, they have no one to go to because they don't feel comfortable going to them. So watch what you say. Treat people exactly how you would like to be treated. You wouldn't want to be called crazy, retarded, psycho. So what makes you think that other people would? So you're right. There's a very big emphasis on words and what you say. And again, you don't know what someone's going through. So again, learn about mental health, and whether you have a family member or a friend with a mental health condition, it doesn't hurt to learn about mental health, to get to know about what the symptoms are and what the signs are, and learn about it, because you never know, that person that you're talking to one day can say, hey, you know something, I'm going through something, and you'll be able to help them.
What Ms. Bryant says, I would say that I agree with everything you and Kendall and Naja have said, because I have Tourette syndrome, right? And so basically what that is like, it's like a tic disorder, but it's like a prolonged one where you may have outbursts, or maybe physical tics where you have body movements you can't control, or you say things. So I can control it pretty well. But oftentimes, like throughout elementary, middle school, and high school, I may hear people make jokes like, oh man, he acting like he got Tourette's, he's saying all this, da da da. And they wouldn't know that I have Tourette's, but like they use that as a joke. And I never really understood it, because I know how many sleepless nights I had trying to control myself from things that I was saying. So having friends that educated themselves on what Tourette's was, and having people in my corner that I could talk to about my tics, and having people that didn't judge me for making weird movements or saying things that, you know, were out of pocket, like it really makes a difference. So knowing how it feels to be in a room with people who make fun of you, as opposed to being surrounded like by a support system where people understand you and know how to assist you, it's like it can have two completely different outcomes. So it's really important for people to educate themselves, even if they've never encountered someone with a disability as of yet. It doesn't hurt to know about disabilities.
Definitely.
So, like, basically, as I was saying, like just a second ago, like as far as people holding themselves accountable for how they can be better, well, educating yourself, Google is free, you know. So looking up different things and just being better educated on different topics helps you to be more accommodating to people, even if they aren't your friends. Like, even on campus, you don't know what somebody's going through. Like we said, you can't look at somebody and know what kind of day they've had. So just giving everybody that grace, like we're all fighting silent battles every day that people may not know about. So giving everybody that extended grace, that that day might have been the day where they wanted to try to, like, you know, hurt themselves, and you don't know if your comment could have taken them over that edge. You don't want that burden on you. But also, like, just making sure, even us ourselves, making sure that we are checking in with our mental health, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves physically and mentally and spiritually. That's very important. And even checking in on some of our friends and making sure that they're doing the same thing. And you can try to use your voice for those who are voiceless, and try to advocate for those who need more than just themselves on their team, is what I would say.
And on the other side of it, the entire world's education system as a whole does not reflect the incredibly vibrant and diverse student population. We as students, our educators, our leaders of the universities and schools and other allied organizations need to join forces now more than ever to make a very clear and public statement to increase the diversity in our learning environment. It cannot wait. We must act now. More specifically, our teachers and professors need to ensure that they have been sufficiently prepared in meeting the certification requirements to properly engage or lecture in a way that adequately meets the full range of their students' academic, physical, social, and emotional needs. Until those certifications are received, here are some things to make your classroom more inclusive, because again, as stated in this discussion, not every student with a disability is willing or comfortable to stand up and share their difficulties. One would be verbal descriptions of visual aids. 2 would be to ensure assigned films are captioned. And 3 would be write key phrases and lecture outlines with Zoom or Blackboard annotates.
And we just wanted to offer some resources for students with disabilities as well. The website blackdisabledandproud.org is a great resource as well, because it works with colleges amongst HBCUs as well as other PWIs and other universities as well. But its main focus is to help and give disability services to all students.
For those of you who have any questions about the Office of Special Student Services or any services they provide, which is for those with disabilities on campus, please contact the new Director of Student Services, Ms. Glennis Daniels-Bacchus, or Ms. Gina Marr, the Manager of Disabilities, at gina.marr@howard.edu. This is gina.marr@howard.edu. And when we return to campus, their address is the Howard Center Suite 725. That address is 2225 Georgia Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. If you want to call them, their phone number is 202-238-2420.
And Ms. Bryan, if you had any other resources or also your contact as well to give out?
Yes, anytime. My phone, first off, never goes off, but before I do all of that, I want to let y'all know about some great organizations that are very near y'all. And as a matter of fact, I would love to see eventually a NAMI on campus at Howard University. One of the things when I got back on the board for my second term with NAMI North Carolina is the fact that I told the board I wanted to do better in our state with people of color. And also my executive director, because we have so many HBCU schools in North Carolina, we wanted to visit before the pandemic to start talking to them about having a mental health organization on campus, such as NAMI on campus. North Carolina Central reached out to us and wants to start a NAMI on campus, as well as Johnson C. Smith. So I would love for y'all guys to reach out to NAMI. First off, y'all are right there where the national organization is, NAMI.org, NAMI.org. You can go on their website and pull up NAMI on campus and how to start one. Or I can email it to y'all ladies and y'all can look over it and see if that's something you want to do. You also have very near to y'all Mental Health America, which is another great entity to help students. So both of those websites, Mental Health America and NAMI.org, are two websites that provide resources and help in classes. You can, right now everything is virtual, So if a student was going through something and they wanted to sit in on a support group, they're more than welcome. If they want to get involved with NAMI, because one of the things I will tell y'all with NAMI, it is a great organization, but we need more people of color, and we need a whole lot more young people. So that might be something that y'all guys want to do to start a NAMI on campus, where the NAMI National Organization, or NAMI Washington, because y'all have one there, they will help y'all guys and be your support. And then when you finish at Howard, you'll go on and join us, because we do need more faces of color. Now, as for me, I am on social media as Proud Mom 72 on Twitter, and I'm also Proud Mom 72 on Instagram. On my website, I have a nonprofit called Wellness Action Recovery, but I don't have a website yet. So you can still reach out to me on Facebook as Fonda Bryant, or if anyone would like to email me, they can email me at Fonda, FONDANC _40 at yahoo.com. So I'm always available. If I don't get back in touch with you right away, I will, because usually if somebody reaches out to me, they're needing help. And I do not hesitate to help someone to get the help they need. Since this pandemic has started, young ladies, I cannot tell y'all how busy I have been, especially with people of color. And I really appreciate people being able to reach out to me. So therefore, if anyone needs my assistance, I'm more than happy to help.
Thank you so much. And also for any students who are on campus who needs a student to hear them out or to talk to, or needs someone who also has a disability, Sohei and I are very accessible. You can email us, you can call us, text us, whatever you need. And we're very excited about an upcoming partnership with Myth, who is going to help us in mentoring or assisting anyone who needs to talk, who has disabilities.
All right. So I just want to give a huge thank you to our panelists for being here and everyone that tuned in today. Feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to look out for more content by us and by Howard University Student Association, and specifically Campus Health. Thank you all again, and stay safe. All right.
Thank you for coming.